Well, you've been quite active in shaping education, and I want you to speak about this movement that you've created, moving medicine forward.
Well, it was an inevitable outcropping outcome of the process of the realization that you and I both throw our hands up. Why doesn't everybody know this? In the general public, why don't all our medical colleagues know this? And one day, out of exasperation, I'm saying, somebody should be teaching this to the medical students. It's the first, second, third, fourth year med students who really need to get this understanding in early. So as they learn anatomy and they learn pathology and they learn pharmacology with the understanding that they're treating these dietary diseases, it'll change their whole fabric as a physician.
What if doctors were never taught how to use the most powerful medicine? That question has guided the life's work of my guest today. Hey there, Dr. Rock here. And it's my absolute honor to welcome Dr. Michael Klaper to the Health Feast, one of the true legends of lifestyle medicine. A physician, a teacher, a trailblazer, and honestly, a North Star for so many of us trying to practice medicine with integrity and heart. For over 40 years, Dr. Klaper has stood at the intersection of science, compassion, and truth. He left behind the pill for every ill model of care when he saw that it really wasn't helping his patients. And instead, he began healing through nutrition, guiding thousands off medications and back into vibrant health. And he's still going with more fire than ever. Well, on our show today, we talk about the moment that changed everything for him and why so many doctors are still unknowingly keeping their patients sick. We get into big questions like what's missing in medical education, what's real in the world of fasting, longevity, and biohacking, and what's the deal with GLP-1 drugs and this carnivore diet craze. But beyond the controversy and the clinical pearls, what you'll hear in Dr. Klaper is what's been there all along. A deep, unshakable reverence for life and a belief that when we align with nature, healing is not only possible, it's inevitable. So, whether you're on a walk, maybe driving home from work, or cooking up something plant-based in the kitchen, let this episode be a reminder, medicine can be beautiful again. Prepare to be grounded, inspired, and yes, awakened. So let's do the show.
Okay, Dr. Michael Klaper, welcome to the Health Feast. This is really a big honor to have you bestow your presence out on our podcast. So thank you for being here.
It's lovely to be invited onto your podcast. And I must tell you and your listeners, I had oral surgery a couple of days ago and my tongue is still fairly numb. So if as I'm speaking, I have a sibilant S here, it's not because I was spilling vodka before it came out. It's because my tongue, right side of my tongue here is still a little numb. So I hope you'll bear with me on that.
Yeah. Hopefully you're not in too much pain.
No, it's not too. Thanks for asking. It's still a little tender, but I'm okay. No, this I really want to do this interview. Thank you for asking.
Okay, awesome. Yeah. I'll just start by saying, you're a really big inspiration for me. In our world, in the lifestyle medicine world, you are a legend. You're a living legend. What is that? You know that. I know you know that. You must know that. We've given you like legend awards. And what does that feel like to be known as a living legend?
Oh my, it's almost as if you're talking about somebody else. I see me just, I'm a doc down in the engine room keeping this ship going forward towards plant-based sanity in this world for our beloved medical profession as well as the animals and the environment. Like there's nothing else to do. So I'm not looking in the rearview mirror here. And it's all nice to hear that. But there's still so much work ahead of us. I don't have time to bathe, to bask in the legend moniker.
That's awesome. That makes it even more legendary. Yeah. No, okay. So really, I've heard you speak many times. It's always impactful and prolific. And I've heard you say that doctors are unknowingly keeping their patients sick. And I want you to just unpack that for our listeners.
Yeah, bless our brethren in the profession, what you don't know, you don't know. And we weren't taught. They don't know. We blow through 4 years of medical school, focusing on viruses and parasites and pesticides as far as pathology goes. But the thought of what the patient is eating as a major factor in these diseases they're bringing to us never enters our instructors' mouths, never enters the teaching regimen. And it is the primordial sin, the primordial oversight in our medical education. So the doctors go out into practice as disease detectives. And you take your medical history, you do your physical exam, or do your labs. Oh, you've got pneumonia, you've got colitis, you've got high blood pressure, you've got diabetes. Here's the medicine for that. And primary care is a matter of matching the disease to the treatment. And the treatment is either a drug or referral to a surgeon or some other specialist. And this is how Western medicine is practiced. And wait a minute, that patient sitting in front of you in a body that's overweight, hypertensive, diabetic, clogged up and inflamed. Doctor, what do you think caused that? Hint, it's the food that they're eating. Every 4 hours, this tide of toxins goes through their bloodstream, the fats and sugars and animal proteins. And yet it's never mentioned. Oh, that's cultural. Oh, can't talk about that. But meanwhile, our patients are dying from heart attacks and strokes and cancers and diabetes at unsustainable rates, unallowable, unforgivable rates when it comes to our profession's role in that, by our ignorance.
This is what I love about you is when you talk about this, it's really, it resonates with me so deeply. It's like you see this as it's just this form of suffering, like this really devastating form of suffering that doesn't need to happen. And there's this like higher truth that is, needs to be spoken about and understood by more and more people.
Yes, and that's why I'm on this podcast. That's why you podcasters are playing such a key role, because the science is established. We know plant-based diets make you healthy, but now it's a matter of educating the public, getting the word out there. It's not California woo-woo stuff. This is the key to health, the key to sustainability, the key to an ecological future. So no, it's you folks really have the ball as far as what's moving the needle or making progress here in getting plant-based nutrition widely accepted, which what really needs to happen.
You probably encounter this as well. I encounter now other physicians who, none of us, as you none of us got really proper nutrition education or any nutrition education. Now there are other physicians who have not had any nutrition education who are perhaps experiencing benefits from a ketogenic diet, who are now talking to their patients about it. And I've had many people tell me that, my doctor recommended this. And it turns out to be like sort of a meat heavy, fat heavy diet. And you're sort of I'm asking myself, like, how could anyone recommend this to you, much less a medical provider? I don't know. Have you experienced that? And I guess the bigger question is like, we're in this like post-truth world where there's so many people speaking as if what they're saying is the truth now. And nutrition is like kind of epitomizing that when you see online world. So I agree with having these conversations. I feel like something even more is needed. And maybe that's what you think about a lot.
Oh, I sure do. And it's distressing and it's dismaying to see colleagues spouting this dogma that really doesn't have solid science behind it. Now, it's true that if you take a person who is shoving their face full of cheeseburgers with the white flour bun and the sugary ketchup and the meat and the cheese and the the oily dressings and the French fries soaked with the fryer oil. Is that food streams going through their body, through their bloodstream on a daily basis. It's true, if you change that food stream to lean meat and vegetables, they're probably going to see some improvement. They're going to lose some weight because you stop the dairy and the oils and the baked goods. That alone is what causes most of the improvement, I believe. And they will go into a state of ketosis. That's true because there's so little carbohydrate in that. But then the conclusion, it's a ketonic diet. That's doing the good work in the body as far as restoring health. But it's not. The state of ketosis is it's an emergency fuel to be running on your fat stores. We are carbohydrate-eating organisms. Our mitochondria prefer glucose as their primary fuel. The enzymes in our saliva that greet our food are starch-digesting enzymes. They are amylase enzymes. Is that not a clue from the universe? We have the same digestive system, basically, that the gorillas have. And they build these magnificently muscular bodies on a steady stream of high fiber, whole plant foods, high carb diet there. And yet people love to taste the meat in their mouth. And here's a rationale that gives them the imprimatur from the doctor. You can eat all the meat you want. And they get these initial improvements. But one, this is a state of acidosis. So these ketone bodies, the acetone and cetoacetic acid, these are acids that the body has to neutralize one way or the other. That your bones have to neutralize, that your kidneys and your liver has to deal with. And the daily fuel that we really need to run our body is really being deprived. And so the ketosis, I view it like passing gear on a car. When you need to pass a truck on a highway, hit the gas and around you go, and does its job. Wonderful. And ketosis can do the same thing. A few days of ketosis, which was probably the standard of 1 million years ago on the African veld. They're probably our ancient foraging ancestors, tribal bands. Probably there 4 or 5 days would go by before they found the next berry bush with fruit on it or the next carcass rotting in the sun. And these 4 or 5 day fasts enforced, were the rule. There's nothing to do but drink water if they could get it. And during that state of that brief dip into ketosis as they shift into fat burning, good things happen in the body. The cells clean themselves out through autophagy. Inflammation settles down. Cancer growth will be retarded. Being in ketosis for a few days is can be beneficial intermittently. But
to be clear, Michael, that is if you're fasting and go into ketosis. If you're eating a high fat, high protein diet, or
Thank you.
not. Yeah,
absolutely. So to complete the circle there, this is a state of stress. It's like driving passing gear is good. You don't want to drive your car to Seattle from LA in passing gear, though. It'll burn out the engine. And the same thing, keeping your body in ketosis day after day, which is what this high-fat, high-protein diet does, along with loading your kidneys up with the waste products from and damaging your endothelial linings and your arteries from the saturated fats. Nobody's been on. See, that's the hooker. Nobody's been on this diet for 20 years. People have been on plant-based diets for 100 years. But nobody's been in ketosis for 20 years. This is
that's never going to happen because no one can sustain that diet for 20 years.
Exactly.
But,
I've sustained a plant-based diet for 42 years now. I became vegan in 1981. So what they're saying is so scientifically bankrupt, and it's harmful to put these people on that road. And what are you doing to their microbiome? What are you doing to their arteries? What are you doing to their insulin receptors? It's such an abnormal, dangerous thing to do. It really causes me dismay that my colleagues would recommend.
But what was your diet growing up?
Oh, standard American. Oh, I ate cheeseburgers. I remember the first McDonald's opening on the south side of Chicago. I was in line. And it wasn't until I was 34. I ate standard Western diet till I was 34 years old. So you won't see me wagging my finger at people still eating meat. I know what it's like to sleep that sleep and just not see what it is.
I was 35. I was about the same age as you.
Right.
I went most of my life, but very different times. So what opened that? What opened your eyes at that age?
Right. Well, two things happened. I've told this story on a few podcasts. Some of your viewers might remember it. But two things happened. I was a resident in anesthesiology at Vancouver General Hospital. And I was on the cardiovascular anesthesia service, and day after day, I'm putting people to sleep, and I'm watching surgeons open their chest and open their coronary arteries and pull this yellow guck out of their arteries called atherosclerosis. And there are already stories, reports in the medical journals that this stuff is largely the fat and cholesterol, the animals these people are eating. And there are already reports that you can melt this away, these plaques out of the artery walls with a whole food plant-based diet. I was already aware of that. But I had a real interest because my dad died of clogged arteries. I know I've got those genes. And here I was scarfing down the burgers and the pepperoni pizzas, and the little voice saying, "Yeah, are you really sure you're not going to wind up on that table with that striker saw going up your sternum?" And so I was getting a message from my left brain about changing my diet to plant-based. But the clincher came a couple of weeks into my anesthesia residency. I'm out for dinner, and I had some events happen. My nights in the trauma unit at Cook County Hospital in Chicago really put me on a path of trying to live a life of nonviolence, of ahimsa. And I had been reading Gandhi and the Indian saints, and it all made perfect sense. It resonated with my very being. And I was out one night for dinner, pontificating about the benefits of a life of ahimsa while I'm polishing off a porterhouse steak at the local Keg and Cleaver. And my partner, John, looks at me with great compassion and says, "Michael, that's all very nice, but if you really want to get the violence out of your life, you might want to start with that piece of meat on your plate. Because in satisfying your desire for the taste of flesh in your mouth, which is really what this is about, you are paying for the death of the animal and for the next one in line at the slaughterhouse." Well, I love these animals. I spent my summers on my uncle's dairy farm. I love the cows and the chickens, and here I am paying for their death. And when he said those words, the old rationales jumped into my head. Well, the animal's dead already, and that's what they raised them for. But before I could get the words out of my lips, that little voice on my shoulder said, "He's right. He's right." And when I went up to pay for the steak dinner, I felt complicit in a crime because I knew what this was connected to. So between what I was seeing in the OR and what I felt in my heart that night in a restaurant, I knew that it was my meeting days were over. So I jumped onto a plant-based diet. My body loved it. Within 6 weeks, a 10-pound spare tire of fat melted off my waist. My high blood pressure went to normal. My high cholesterol went to normal. I felt great waking up in a light, lean body. And at that point, you can't unring the bell. There's no going back. Burger man at that point. So I've been plant-based.
I've heard you say it, right? You can't unsee it.
You can't.
It's like the curtain has been lifted.
Well, once you look behind the curtain, you can't pretend you don't know what's behind the curtain. You know. And once you know,
I worked in the hospital for 12 years, and after I made my own plant-based change in my life and lost a bunch of weight and reversed my chronic diseases, and I had seen behind the curtain, it was like, well, then everyone who walked into the hospital needed to hear this. How could I not tell them this? Because it would prevent them from having to ever come back.
That's our quandary. That's our dilemma, sir. And we're hopefully reaching thousands of people who will turn around and tell thousands of other people, this is how it's done. because you're right, they do need to hear this message and act on it. There are so many people undergoing bypasses and radical procedures, colectomies for their colitis, that they really don't, that are really surgical tragedies and can be prevented with a diet that we were really designed to run on.
So you changed your diet, but you were practicing. And so how
Yes.
did this then infiltrate into your clinical practice? Because back then there was no American College of Lifestyle Medicine. There was no, this was a rogue, probably doctor that was saying not enough is enough, or what? Take us back.
You're right. Well, it was 1981, and I found myself making my paychecks working urgent care units, and they had just come into existence. And I was working urgent care units, and there's this steady stream of people going by, overweight, diabetic, hypertensive, and atherosclerotic, inflamed. And I knew what they were eating from when they walked in the door. You can tell the dairy eaters when they walk in the door from the bloat in their faces and their thick necks there. And it's being a little unfair, but there's a look about them, for about many of them at least. And I knew that if they go plant-based, this would be the most important trip to an urgent care unit they ever made. If they changed their diet, they'd save their own lives. So I started making up handouts to give to my patients, and I'd interrupt their lacerations, and I'd treat their burns, and I'd do what I need to do in the urgent care unit. But then I'd say, look, I see you're carrying extra weight. I see your blood pressure's up here. It's the food you're eating here. I gave my handout start to finish on how to get more plants into their diet, how to phase out the fatty animal products. And a couple months later, I'm working in the urgent care clinic. I'm suturing up somebody, and a nurse says, "You got a call on the phone, doctor." And the patient called, "Hey, Doc, you saw me in the clinic a couple months ago. My blood pressure was up, and you put me on this diet. Well, now I'm standing up and I'm getting lightheaded. And I'm on 2 medications for my blood pressure." And I said, cut your pills in half and call me back in 48 hours. And so he cut his dosage down, and 3 days later, he called me back. "Still happening, Doc." I said, he says, "Do you have a home blood pressure cuff?" "Yeah." I said, what are you getting?" He says, "When I'm laying in bed, it's 108 over 78. And when I stand up, it's dropping down to the 104 over 60. And I said, "Man, you don't have high blood. Stop the pills. You're just on a half a pill a day anyway. Stop them. And call me back in 4 or 5 days. Let me know how you're doing." Well, he did. He says, "Man, I'm feeling great. It feels so nice to be off those beta blockers, be off those pills." And he was my first, direct feedback. This is real. So this works, and I almost had no choice. Well, the same thing happened with a patient with diabetes. They calling me back, said, "Doc, I've been eating plant-based, like you say, and I'm waking up with blood sugars of 80, and I'm scared, and I'm getting a little lightheaded and headachy." And so, "Well, cut your insulin in half and call me back in 4 days." And call me back. His insulin sugar's still too low. Cut it in half again. So we did 3 sessions on the phone. Eventually, I said, "Stop your insulin. Excuse me, you don't have type 2 diabetes anymore." Well, the first patient ever got me off insulin. You have to get him off. There's no reason to keep this man on insulin if he's having hypoglycemic reactions. So the truth is so powerful. It just barges into your medical practice. How can you not deal with? So at that point, there's no turning back.
No turning back. What I remember, the first couple patients that I helped reverse their disease. I mean, I guess I was my first patient, but after that, I remember my first couple. I was working in the hospital, and then eventually I realized that the hospital was just getting fuller and fuller. And, I was like, this isn't, my journey lies beyond this, upstream. And so I went to go work in primary care. I worked in a HMO, like pretty very busy primary care clinic. And I only did that for a year because like very early on, I was like, I want to talk to these people. I need time to learn about what they're eating and what their stresses are. And, and there was no time. So I was calling people in lunchtime, and on my commute home, I sometimes would call people. But I saw in that year, I saw people come off insulin. I saw people come off blood pressure meds. And I was like, why isn't everyone doing this? Like, seriously, like why isn't everyone doing this? And my colleagues that just sort of, put their head down and get through their visits, because that is to say, we're in like this really kind of crazy and sad state of affairs in our profession. And I don't know, what gives you hope? Certainly, I like to focus on that because there are a lot of negatives you could focus on, and then you just sort of get
indeed plenty of negatives for the looking here. But what gives me hope, without being trite here, podcasters like you give me hope. Education of the public gives me hope. The economics, whether they know it or not, are in the favor of plant-based nutrition. The cattle industry, the beef industry is cutting down the forests, it's sucking the rivers dry, it's polluting the waters, it's destroying the soils. And that's what we're using animal or plant agriculture for, us grow corn and soybeans to shovel down the gullets of millions of cows and pigs and chickens. And it's so much more efficient to grow plants for people and feed it to them. Eventually, it's going to be recognized, and it may happen on a local level, but raising animals is very expensive on a lot of levels. And the health issues, it's just becoming more widely accepted. Now, back to 30 years ago, when you mentioned plant-based diet and health and medicine, that's fringy stuff. Now, it's everywhere. You see plant-based on all the labels in the store these days.
That's right.
It's become hip. It's become the thing to do. For good reason. And more and more people, especially in the environmental families, and those who are still eating meat in the major environmental organizations really have some self-examination to do, to say the least. So it's the education, it's the underlying economics, it's the change in society, because the real power lies in you at the checkout counter when you put that dollar bill down or that credit card down, what's in your basket. If people stop buying the meat and the dairy, it will change the economics. We have that power. If you stop ordering the meat in the restaurant, there'll be more plant-based options on the menu. It's really up to us. And that's why the education from folks like you are really, really key at this point.
Well, you've been quite active in shaping education, and I want you to speak about this movement that you've created, moving medicine forward.
Well, it was an inevitable outcome of the process of the realization that you and I both throw our hands up. Why doesn't everybody know this? As in the general public, why don't all our medical colleagues know this? And one day, out of exasperation, I'm saying, somebody should be teaching this to the medical students. It's the first, second, third, fourth year med students who really need to get this understanding in early. So as they learn anatomy and they learn pathology and they learn pharmacology with the understanding that they're treating these dietary diseases, it'll change everything. It'll change their whole fabric as a physician. And it'll certainly change the diagnoses they made, the treatments they recommend. It'll change the face of Western medicine. So I saw the medical students as an acupuncture point where to put shine the light in that if you can influence 100 or 200 med students going through who come out as plant sympathetic doctors who at least understand it and use some of the principles in their practice, every doctor is caring for 2,000-3,000 patients. You can really magnify the effect and again, really change the character of Western medicine. So I'm saying somebody should be teaching the medical students. Somebody should be going to the medical schools and saying this. And the little voice on the shoulder says, "How about you, Doc?" And this was back in 2014. And by 2016, I'm finding myself living on airplanes and in hotel rooms, going to the nation's medical schools, giving a lecture what I wish I learned about nutrition in medical school, and spelling out here's what your patient's daily diet is doing to them, and here's why a plant-based diet will reverse that. You need to know this. And the reception's been just wonderful. The students are so grateful to get this information. And so it's my slot in the engine room there where I'm working to hopefully turn the ship into a positive direction.
That's incredible. I it's like talks like that. So it's a talk like that changed my life. I know I gave a talk. We were at a conference together and I gave a talk and we both gave talks and I shared that. I shared why one of the reasons I like giving talks is because it was my experience sitting in a room at a talk, hearing about all these things. The curtain was being lifted. And gosh, how amazing that would have been if the curtain was lifted in medical school, or if the curtain had been lifted in grade school, to be honest.
Really? Absolutely.
Right. I mean, that's the truth. Like, this needs to be part of school curriculum. And
really.
There are people working on that for sure. Yeah.
There are, which is, bless them for doing that work. That's really essential.
Yeah. So, okay. So, yeah, I can imagine. Have you had medical students that have subsequently corresponded with you, have told you how it's changed their training, their experience of school, how they're looking at their career?
Absolutely. We get these wonderful letters back from them. And one of them, a fourth-year osteopathic student at Nova Southeastern in South Florida, was so enthusiastic about the message and how it changed his viewing of medicine that he said, "Dr. Klaper, I'd like to join your crew there and help." And we were glad to have him come aboard. And we watched him graduate and go all the way through his family practice residency. And now Dr. Zach Burns is our associate director at Moving Medicine Forward here.
Oh, wow.
And he's a blessing. And he's really helped lighten my load and helping get the word out to his contemporaries. He's of a different generation. It was great to have him on board. If people would like to learn more about us, about Moving Medicine Forward and how they can help, because we could sure use the support, go to, you'll probably post it in the show notes, but movingmedforward.org, movingmedforward.org, and you can see what we're doing.
Yeah. So, I mean, because I think that's getting at the root, right? We know there's decades of overwhelming evidence that food is powerful medicine, and we're still seeing so many trends go in the opposite direction. And there's a lot of noise. That's what I like to say. There's a lot of noise. And I want to ask you about some of these. So these are some things I think are noise right now. One is, I don't know if it's noise. I want to get your opinion on it. What do you think of these novel GLP-1 agonist drugs? Like,
oh my. And they hit that I roll my eyes here. I knew we were off for quite a roller coaster ride. It's hard for me to be terribly positive about them for a number of reasons. But and we've run into problems. People, they'll lose 10, 20 pounds, and then the weight loss plateaus. So they wind up frustrated, and they wind up hooked on these drugs because if they stop using them, the weight goes back up. If they keep eating their cheeseburgers and pepperoni pizzas, the weight comes right back. in a way that's a key to how I could see a possible good use for them. And that is, I think every doctor who is prevailed upon to write that prescription for the Wegovy and the Ozempic can do so, but say with this admonition out to the patient, fair enough, I'm going to give you a 6-month supply of this drug. And during these 6 months, you are to learn how to prepare and eat and enjoy a diet of whole plant foods. And so when you come off this drug, your weight doesn't balloon back up.
That's
You'll
right.
stay on the healthy,
That's right.
the weight loss track. That's
right.
how these drugs could be used appropriately and safely. But to say, oh, it's lifetime medicine, you'll be on them forever. It sends a chill through me as a doctor.
I think I take care of people on these drugs, and when I ask if they want to, I've had one person out of many tell me they envision staying on these drugs for the rest of their life. Like, most people don't have that intention. The drug company has that intention. And to your point, when people don't change their lifestyle habits and they come off the drug, they regain. They're metabolically worse. I think you're probably seeing this too. They're losing fat and muscle on the way down, and then they're regaining fat. Just like any other crash diet, that's failed in the past. These drugs are just a pill form of the crash diet.
Well said. Yes, I agree.
Yeah. Okay. What about the carnivore diet? You've been warning about meat-heavy diet for years, and this is folks who are only eating meat.
Oh my! It's kind of the red line, the needle pegged on the into the red zone there. Where does this come from? Somewhere there's this myth that our ancient our Paleolithic ancestors, they all had a mastodon in the freezer, and they spent all day eating mammoth meat. I'm like, hey man, that's what I do. I eat mammoth meat, and it's true. If you've been eating the fatty, refined carbohydrate, white bread and oils and sugars and all that stuff, if you stop that stuff and run on a different fuel, I won't say it's a healthy one, yeah, you're going to lose weight, and the weight loss will have some benefits showing up in your body there. But to think that, first of all, it is historically nonsense. Why? Because we have looked at the fecaliths of the Paleolithic folk. These are fossilized feces, and they're huge. These folks are eating huge amounts of plant fiber, 100 to 150 grams of plant fiber a day. The idea that we are living on meat-only diets, well, it's absurd. I mean, first of all, most hunts were unsuccessful. Most times the guys came back empty-handed from the hunt. If they did manage to drag a carcass into camp, there was no refrigeration. It rotted within days, became putrid. And our small little mouths say, we're not carnivores. We have short little canine teeth,
Right.
great for biting into apples, but not so much biting through the hide of a buffalo. The reality is that most of the calories brought into the Paleolithic camps were gathered by the women who spent all day digging up these starchy roots and tubers and harvesting edible grasses and berries and nuts and seeds. We were mostly starchivores back then. We are still starchivores. Witness the saliva in our mouths and the amylase in our pancreatic secretions. So this idea is based on just a mythological fantasy, and I think it's really dangerous. All that saturated fat, what is it doing to the endothelial linings of the arteries? Now, what kind of nasty microbes is this breeding in their gut? As far as opening them up, everything from colon cancer to Crohn's disease and colitis. And because nobody eats raw meat, I would hope that every time you grill the meat, you're generating carcinogens that you're smearing on your stomach lining and your gut. Well, all the advanced glycation end products that come from cooking meat damage the arteries in your brain. These folks are opening themselves up to an epidemic of colon cancers, gastric cancers, colitis, Crohn's disease, strokes, heart attacks, dementia. Nobody's been on this diet for 20
How many
years.
years? Yeah, I'm going to ask you, how many years from now will we like definitively say like that, like
Oh,
look back and be like, no one is doing that because the evidence has, clear. I mean,
right.
you and I know, but
Well, the reports are already in the literature about the high TMAO levels in the paleo folks because the microbes they conjure up in their gut turn the carnitine in the meat
Right.
into trimethylamine that their liver oxidizes into trimethylamine oxide that drives cholesterol into the artery wall.
That's right.
It's a molecule from hell. And the paleo folks are walking around with high levels of TMAO. Surprise. Well,
I know
when
these are folks in their, people who are eating this way in their 20s, 30s.
exactly when you're young,
Yeah.
you think you can get away with this, but I guarantee you, when these folks are in their 40s and 50s, they are going to be so sorry they did this after their stroke and after their colon resection for the cancer and after the vascular dementia starts setting in. It's a real tragedy, and the folks who wrote the books, they're counting their money about the carnivore diet and the website hawkers. But it's a real crime against the people who follow this.
Yeah. I'm going to ask about something different. There's a lot about these days being written about, talked about longevity science, biohacking, and people are taking certain drugs, rapamycin, metformin. I just want to get your take on that.
Important point, and I see this happening. There's a lot of gurus pushing it. I'm seeing my friend Dr. Caldwell Esselstyn just turned 90. Dr. Colin Campbell just turned 90. I've got a number of friends who are in their 90s, and I'm 77. And I imagine I'll make it to 90. Do I want to make it much past that? I don't know. Do I really want to this whole rickety 100-year-old guy? I don't know. I've done my mission here. By the time I'm 90, I'll be a happy man here if we make more vegans in the world. And so to turn all these chemical cranks into up your sirtuin levels and prevent insulin spikes, all this stuff. What are you really doing? I'm a little suspicious. In one, as we all know, in the body, in any natural system, you can't do one thing. The body can't do one thing. Everything you do sets off cascades of reaction. Well, I'm taking metformin to raise my sirtuin level. Well, that's what you think you're doing, but you're also changing hundreds of different enzyme systems in the body. And I'm taking rapamycin to tone down my mTOR. Well, that's what you think you're doing, but you may also be, what are you doing to your oncogene suppressor genes? How do you know you're not freeing up more cancer promoting forces in the body? And for what? It's not a matter of how many years you live. It's what you do with your time. It's how much love and how much you serve, how much you learn, how much you laugh, how much you give and make it a better world, how much suffering you relieve. That's all that matters. And if I'm only allowed 81 years or 74 or 102, it'll be enough at this point. But I'm having a hard time getting on because it's part of it. It comes from a fear of death. Is really what this is about. Keep that bad old man with the sickle away from me here, and that's not a great motivator to live your daily life if you're really taking these pills so you don't die. It's kind of sad to me here, and. Dr. Michael Greger, now he says, notice I titled my books, How Not to Die, not How to Not Die.
Right. Right.
Exactly. And so I'm not jumping on that bandwagon right now. There might be some value for some people, but seems expensive and unknown.
Expensive and unknown, and the same, I won't say any names, but like the same people, if they talk about, they don't talk about diet. They don't talk about diet, which, it baffles me. Like Michael Greger wrote a whole book on longevity and 90% of the book is on diet. And there are other books on longevity that might have a few pages and from well-known doctors. And I say, how is this? Doesn't make sense. It baffles the mind. How are we talking about sirtuin levels in rapamycin, which maybe there's some benefit, but there's a lot more benefit to sirtuin levels from our diet, right? And how we can affect these things with our diet.
Well said,
And
Dr. Rock. Yes.
yeah, so I don't know. It's again this very bizarre world we live in where people
It's not
choose to
that
focus.
complicated. The giraffes know what to eat. We should take a tip from them. The gorillas know what to eat. I've never had a gorilla in the office saying, "Doc, I can't keep my hands off these cheeseburgers." They know what to eat.
When did you start just basically proclaiming it's the food? It's the food. Like every time I've seen you talk, I love that about you. It's like your calling card. Is that something you started young when you were?
I was at a conference in the 1990s. I was there and was, at the end of my talk, I said, I see all these millions of dollars of research going to find a cure for type 2 diabetes and a cure for high blood pressure and a cure for prognosis. Yeah, it makes you want to get up on a soapbox in Washington and say, it's the food they're eating. And it just resonated so right that I used to. It turns out Dr. John McDougall then sent me a note. You're welcome to use it, doctor, but by the way, we've been using that on our website for a few years now. And I went to the website. Sure enough, there it was. I hadn't seen
It's the food.
But John McDougall came to the same point. It's the food. Absolutely.
It's the food. Okay, I want to ask you about fasting. You mentioned it. I know you also spent, and you can tell our listeners, you spent a fair amount of time at True North.
8 years on the staff, attending staff at True North.
Yeah, how did you end up there?
I've been working in New Zealand. I did 3 years in New Zealand, running a large urgent care clinic down there.
That's
and,
right.
And got homesick. And I came back to the States in 2009 and needed a job. And I had to make some money. And interviewed at a couple of clinics. And I have friends in Northern California, and someone said, "Oh, you should stop." Well, in fact, Dr. Alan Goldhammer had been after me for years. Michael, you need to join our staff. And finally, the stars aligned right, and I called Dr. Goldhammer. He said, "Sure, you're welcome aboard." And so for 8 years, I was on the staff at True North in Santa Rosa, about an hour north of San Francisco. And it was just wonderful what I saw there. Nutritional medicine done right. And people came in, they eat that lean, clean, whole food, plant-based diet, no added salt, sugar, or oil. And what we saw there was just nothing short of spectacular. The excess weight melts away, the high blood pressure comes down, the joints stop hurting. And that was just from the food. But Dr. Goldhammer is a passionate advocate of water-only fasting. And so I found myself having to bone up on the physiology of fasting. Amazing things happen during a water fast. And these people would come in with the high blood pressure and the red-hot swollen joints from rheumatoid arthritis or lupus, colitis, and we put them on a water fast. And we would see these remarkable remissions. During a fast, the body does not want to run inflammation. And so if the inflamed joints settled down, I'll never forget one morning I came in, was making rounds with the interns, and there was a woman who was on day 16 of her water fast. She'd come in with a really bad rheumatoid arthritis. You could see the redness, and her joints hurt to look at. I came in on day 16 of her fast, and she had tears going down her face. I said, "Are you in pain?" She said, "No, this is the first time I've been able to make a fist in 10 years. It's just so wonderful." And the power of fasting really came in full color there. We had patients come in with bad psoriasis, and that's my psoriatic patients made me want to run the other way in general practice. The slather on the steroid cream and wait a couple of months. Well, you put someone on a water fast, and we watched these red, angry psoriatic patches fade right before our eyes. It took a couple of weeks on the fast, but within 14, 21 days, those plaques were 10% of when they came in. Again, shows how quickly and profoundly the body can respond to this state. So it's a remarkable therapeutic tool to get control over the many of the body's systems and to reset your taste buds and reset your microbiome a bit. But as I put on a T-shirt as I was making rounds at True North there, the fast is very powerful, but what matters is what you eat after the fast. It's because
It's
really
the food.
it's the food. It's the
Yeah.
food stream day after day, week after week, month after month that creates a healthy body. It's not 21 days on water. Yeah, it's a helpful step up. It could be a booster shot, but basically it's the food. And if you eat a healthy whole food diet, no one needs to fast. The truth of it is, your body will do just fine with all those fruits and veggies and whole grains and legumes.
Interesting. So you think it's a powerful tool, but not necessarily necessary
Correct.
to achieve optimal health.
That's correct. No one needs to fast, but it can be useful. And when I was there, it was verboten to, no one does fast unless they're under direct supervision. Well, things have evolved, and now it's routine now to supervise fasts on an outpatient basis, on a telemedicine basis. And it's safe for most people to do, say, a 5-day fast at home on their own. You start with a 3-day, just over a weekend, just do vegetable broth, throw water over a weekend. If you feel good after those 3 days, you can extend it another 2 days. And then break it with some watermelon chunks or some vegetable soup. But if it's going to go longer than that, for a significant medical issue, high blood pressure, so you need some medical supervision, and you can get that online these days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. So, regardless, if somebody's listening, like, how do they? I know there's a lot of, a lot of people talk about fasting, but really maybe it's time restricted eating, and fasting is really that. It's just how long have you not eaten for? We're always fasting for some period of time. So, do you counsel your patients on doing those types of things, or the timing of their meals, or?
Right. I suggest if people want to do time restricted feeding, hold it at 12 hours. 12 hours fasting, 12 hours eating. Once you pass that 12, 14-hour mark, you're starting to get into gluconeogenesis. You're starting to burn some protein to turn into sugars. You don't want to do that day after day after day after day. I think that throws us into a metabolic gear that probably doesn't work for our benefit long term. But to come right up to that, where you're starting to generate some sirtuins, your IGF-1 levels are going down, a 12-hour quote fast, or time to abstain from eating, I think is a helpful thing to do, and that's what I've been advocating for my patients.
That everyone could do. And then what about the occasional? I guess it depends on the condition you're treating, but doing an occasional extended fast, like you suggested, maybe.
So once or twice a year to do a 5-day fast, I think is a fine thing to do as a tune-up. Some people do it at the change of the seasons. They do it going into spring, and they do it going into fall. Yes, but 5 days is enough. You don't need to do these long 21-day fasts unless you've got a real medical issue that you just have to clout down with the fast, and you ought to be under medical supervision.
And do you personally practice? Do you personally practice any fasting?
Yes. I've been fasting for the past 4 days now since my oral surgery. I've been having hot water and miso broth here. But I feel good. Seriously, I feel good. I've cleaned out. I've dropped a couple of pounds. Actually, I feel I'm not terribly hungry.
That's interesting.
Yes, and so the body knows, but during the year, I'll do. My wife and I will do a 5-day fast about twice a year. So that's about enough at this point.
I like that. Okay, yeah, I've experimented with fasting, and occasionally I will kind of do what's called a monk's fast, which is like I will just sort of fast on Sunday until midday on Monday, a 36-hour fast. Just for the reasons you said, I feel like it gives me some clarity, and I sort of feel like my system cleans out a little bit. But yeah, I like the idea of also maybe once or twice a year doing a longer fast.
Good thing to do.
Yeah. Do you just consume water during that and broth? I heard you say.
Vegetable broth. We always have some vegetable broth in the fridge there, and I'll alternate. I'll have water, and then I'll have sips of vegetable broth, and I enjoy the electrolytes and the potassium, and there's no calories in it. But I do use. We've got a soda stream here. I like carbonated water, so I use that as well. So not too hard to get through.
I heard from somebody recently at actually this past lifestyle medicine conference that carbonated water has this effect of increasing ghrelin levels, so you can feel hungrier. I don't know the exact mechanism of that, but anyway, I don't know if you.
Yeah, I can't say it really does. I don't believe. I got a good appetite regardless of anything.
But if you're eating only plants, it doesn't matter. Exactly.
You have another helping of kale.
Exactly. It's only good for you until your stomach is full and you're like, I can't fit anymore.
Exactly. It's a good thing in a way for vegans.
It's a good thing. That's my favorite thing to do at dinner when I'm taking seconds. I'm like, I'm taking seconds and I'm doing something good for my health by eating more. Yeah. So I guess you're talking in medical schools. I have this idea that if you could wave a magic wand and kind of design a medical school from scratch, what would it look like?
Oh, what a beautiful question. Thank you. Because one, the body is so beautiful. Learning about it, I loved every year of medical school. I was there. Learning about it is so beautiful. But the plant-based diet is so profound as far as a healing force that it should be woven into absolutely every academic discipline during the 4 years of medical school. Joyously, I wish I had this curriculum. In the first year, you study anatomy. Well, fine. Focus on how the digestive system is laid out in its brilliance to digest a plant-based diet, basically. You learn physiology. We'll talk about the physiology of digestion and all the enzymes involved and all the peristalsis, etc. Then in first year, you learn biochemistry. Well, let's talk about the biochemistry of carbohydrate metabolism or protein metabolism, how it weaves into once the nutrients are absorbed through the GI system, how the body processes them. So biochemistry should be replete with plant-based applications. And then in the second year, then you learn pathology. Well, look at all the diseases and the role the diet plays in them, and let's see how plant-based diets can actually reverse this pathology. We talk about microbiology during the second year, as well as talk about the microbiome and how the food stream influences that, and how you can optimize its amazing properties and functions. And pharmacology, you learn your second year, and we learn the drugs. Well, how do these drugs affect metabolism? How do they affect digestion, intestinal motility, etc.? And that's just during the first 2 years of basic sciences.
Right.
Then you get out into the clinical years, and as you go through every rotation, obstetrics and pediatrics and medicine and surgery, and every one of those. Pediatrics, you've got kids in with Crohn's disease, you've got kids with asthma, you've got all these nutritional based diseases. Talk about them and get them on whole food plant-based diets. You go into obstetrics, the women who eat the standard Western diet and they get obese and they develop gestational diabetes, and they have these huge 10, 11-pound kids, macrosomia kids, that they require these cesarean sections and they get a wound infection. All these terrible things happen. That's a prime place to talk about plant-based nutrition in the obstetric outpatient clinic, and on the wards, of course. And internal medicine, well, of course, all your patients with diabetes, clogged arteries, the plant-based nutrition is flashing bright lights there. And surgery, why are they doing so much abdominal surgery, so many cholecystectomies, so many colectomies, from what their patients are eating? And so all the way through the years of medical school, nutrition, especially plant-based nutrition, should permeate the entire
Wow.
curriculum.
Wow.
And so when that young graduate comes out with MD after their name, they know what they're going to be seeing in clinic.
Yeah.
More importantly, they know what they're going to be doing about it. And they'll make up handouts, and they find a plant-based dietitian to refer their patients to, find a stable of health coaches that they can enlist to help their individual patients, and go out there and practice medicine to really get people healthy. You get them preventing these diseases and reverse if they have to. It's the most fun kind of medicine.
Yeah, it's the I would say it's true. It's the antidote for burnout, because I think so many doctors are burnt out because their patients, I mean, we're working in this environment that is like a factory, and people aren't getting better. Actually, we're seeing people get sicker. When you start working with people to change their food and move more and manage their stress, then they start getting better. And then you're like, whoa, like, that's why I went into medicine.
That's why they went into medicine. They walk out of the office and you go, yes, right.
Right.
That's why I went into medicine. Yes.
So it's one thing like to know what to do. I think a lot of people don't even know exactly what to do. So there's so much value in spreading that message. But then once they know, the hard bit can be actually making the change, right? How do you work with people to make change?
Indeed. Is that not the cross of physicians since Hippocrates? How to get your patients to make you live healthfully. That's what every doctor struggles with. How do you get human beings to change their behavior? Everybody's different. They're all going to need to hear a slightly different song. But like my high school basketball coach said, you got to want to. You got to want to. And so you make sure the patients want to do this, that they're tired of being overweight and hypertensive and diabetic and taking these pills, et cetera. If they're motivated, there are ways to ease them into this. And I have handouts to help people where, just start adding more plants to your daily diet. Put berries on your oatmeal, throw beans on your salad. See if you can make any of your favorite dinner entrees more plant-based instead of spaghetti with meatballs. How about pasta primavera with lots of vegetables? If instead of a meat chili, how about a bean chili? There's ways to meet them where they're at using the foods they already like. And there are health coaches who are expert at this, and I don't hesitate to say it may cost you a few bucks but for a month, wants you to have to employ this health coach, and she's going to call you every Thursday night. She's going to ask you how you're doing, what worked, what didn't work, how much do you weigh, what do you think needs to change, any barriers you're running into from family or money. What is preventing you from jumping on the plant-based train, boots in, like they say in New Zealand. And the health coach can help them knock down those barriers and make most of their meals, if not all of them, whole food, plant-based. And online now, I say find your tribe. Wherever you are, there's people in your town, in your city that have get-togethers. But there's Facebook pages. There are people who are just starting out, and there's wonderful jumpstart programs. Rochester Lifestyle Medicine has a wonderful jumpstart program. Forks Over Knives has a good one. Rip Esselstyn has a good one. And so if they need to, have them enlist in one of these jumpstart programs. And there's a wonderful little book that I recommend by Rachel Brown called For Fork's Sake. And it's a skinny little book. You can
Rachel, Rachel was on our podcast.
Right. And she takes you by the hand and says, here's how to make this plant-based transition.
Yeah.
And so I have them get Rachel's book as well. So if they wanna, if they have that, if they know they need to change, there's a lot of resources to help them make that change.
That's right.
The most important thing is to know that I want them. I'm happy for them. I'm enthusiastic about them changing. It really matters to me when they come back and see me next month. I want to see how they're doing, and hopefully they'll be a couple pounds lighter, and we can start reducing their meds. My interest and the doctor's interest is a key ingredient in their transition.
Well, you said something at the start of that. You said they have to really want it, and they have to, meaning the circumstances in their life have to be so unbearable now that I'm fascinated because I agree with you. Like when people get to that situation, that can be very motivating for them because the pain of continuing what is unbearable at a certain point. Do people have to get to that break point? Meaning, how do you help the person who comes in and you're like, well, if in 5 years you will be at that break point?
Subtle but important point, of course. Because what doesn't work is for the husband to be dragged in there by the wife and he's sitting there with his arms folded and rolling.
Does not work.
And he doesn't want to be there. And it's a non-starter. Though I've had a couple of those kind of guys come in 6 months later, leaner and healthier, and saying, "Doc, you don't think I was listening, but I wasn't. I started eating my wife's food, and it tastes pretty good, and it's agreeing with me." But by and large, if you can detect resistance there, then you don't want to keep pounding on the castle gates there. But also, it's okay to do. So I'm just sowing seeds,
Right.
like the Bible there. Some are going to land on fertile ground, some will land on parched ground. But at least they've heard. And it might take months or years for those seeds to sprout. He may have to get to that point of medical pain where a doctor told me that if I don't change my diet, bad things are going to happen. You don't want him to have a stroke or a MI or anything bad. But sometimes all you can do is just sow the seeds. We're bearers of information. People are going to do what they're going to do. They're adult humans. I ask them, what matters to them? What's their why? I want to see my grandkids graduate from high school.
Right.
I want to be able to swing a golf club again. I want to be able to look down and see my penis again over this big bulgy belly here. Whatever they need. Okay. Well, we can work with that. Okay. Do you think what you're eating is playing any role in that? And wherever they give you that little bit of opening, see if you can weasel on through there, and because it shows that you care about them. It shows that it matters to you, that you really want them to be healthy. And so and often it's just the doctor's attention that really is the magic fairy dust. Okay, I'll do it. And can you do this for a week? Okay, we just do a week of healthy eating, and if you don't like it, okay, back to Burgerland. But they'll often, okay, and especially if you can get them into, into the pasta primavera. And here's the one plate. I think there's a place for Impossible Burgers
when they're starting.
Yeah, for this kind of guy, if plant-based, I could eat that. That wasn't bad. At least you've opened the door a little bit that plant-based eating could be good. But you don't want to stay on that stuff. But,
It's a mindset shift, maybe. It's a way to start to make the mindset shift.
It's all about the mind, of course.
Because there's a belief, I had this belief for years, that my meals weren't meals unless they had some animal protein.
Yeah, absolutely. We were born with that. Americans.
How many people have that idea, that belief? These myths, I used to say, well, if I stop eating meat, what am I going to eat? I'm going to have less variety. The opposite is true. Where will I get my protein from? Right.
The meat industry's been expert in planting that in our heads there in the Department of Agriculture since grammar school, with the posters on the board there. You want 4 food groups. Yeah, meat and the dairy and the veggies. Yeah.
Well, I think I've heard you say, and even in this conversation, you recognize that people are coming from all different places, that it's not often their fault, right? Nobody told them this. And the food industry has created a business about hooking them to these things.
Yeah, absolutely. Your mother didn't know. My mother didn't know. They fed us what they thought would help us grow big and strong. For their sons, and meat was part of it. They were told, "You feed your son meat, help him grow muscles," and so we grew up eating it, liking it, and we didn't know. We didn't know. While you're asleep, you're asleep, right? But we need to wake them up in big time now, indeed.
Okay, so For someone who's hearing this and they're wanting to take control of their health, what's one step they can take today?
Right. Think about one meatless breakfast. You don't need bacon and eggs for breakfast. How about oatmeal with berries on it and some plant milk, soy milk or hemp milk? One meatless lunch, vegetable soup and a nice salad and a hummus sandwich. How about that? With tomatoes and lettuce.
Sounds good.
How about that? All right. Now you've already cut your meat consumption down by 2/3 with just those
Right.
2 meals there.
Right.
And think about a meatless dinner. Again, spaghetti with vegetables, a bean chili, bean burritos with no cheese, all sorts of Asian curries and noodle dishes. Pick one, but just make them with veggies. So, you've gotten through a whole day with no meat. Wow. Well, there's a whole world waiting for you of delicious foods
Yes.
that you can do that day after day after day. So
Yes.
try one meal each.
Yes. Okay. That's great advice. Okay. We ask this, Michael, to all our guests who come on the Health Feast. You're coming to our proverbial Health Feast, and everyone is bringing their mindset tip or life philosophy. And so, what is it that Dr. Michael Klaper is bringing to the Health Feast?
There's no greater advice to give anyone than to be kind. Be kind. This is all about kindness, true. Be kind to your body, be kind to the animals, be kind to the planet, be kind to each other. Eat in a peaceful manner. We need peace on this planet. And it starts, the old saying, peace begins in the kitchen. Let's stop killing the animals. Let's stop killing the planet. Let's stop killing each other. It's time to be kind. So bring kindness into your life, into your medical practice, into your daily food choices. And things have to get better.
Oh, that's beautiful. Thank you. Yeah, kindness. Kindness spreads beautiful energy. And I feel from you, man. I feel that from you, that your mission in life is to put out this beautiful energy. It is driven by this kindness that you see so much suffering. Now I see it too. And it doesn't have to be that way. And someone like you, I know you don't like to think of yourself as a legend or a trailblazer, but you're a trailblazer because someone like you can have a career like that and continue your career with that mission. You think about all not just me, but even people younger than us, the kind of impact that makes. And now you will go to all these schools and give all these talks to medical students. I think about that, the impression you're making, where they see what's possible in their career.
Yeah, I'm not making any money at this. I'm working for the children and I'm working for the animals at this point and for the planet and for my patients at this point.
And I'll just mention it because I heard you say it a few times, that voice that has guided you throughout your life, the one at the restaurant that told you you're ready to stop eating this stuff. The one that told you need to be doing this for everyone. So it's that voice.
You can't ignore it.
You can't ignore it. Yeah. That's, I think, your intuition, which is cool to hear you in these pivotal life moments to really catch it and listen to it.
Yeah, that's the art, is listening to it and acting on it.
All right. Thank you so much, Michael. This was a beautiful conversation. A really, again, honored to have you on here and to be now connected with you and to help move this movement forward. Yeah, we need to all support each other in this movement because there's a lot of work to be done.
Indeed.
So we do a requisite fist bump to the camera. Boom. All right. Yeah. And we thank you all for listening. We'll see you back here next time. Until then, live well and rock on, everybody.
Be well.